Caring for a loved one with memory loss can be incredibly challenging. Every day brings new hurdles, from forgotten appointments to moments of anxiety and confusion. But what if there was a way to bridge the communication gap, to send a little piece of yourself to them throughout the day, bringing comfort and clarity? Today, we're talking about a revolutionary tool designed to do just that. MemoryBoard. Imagine a simple to use digital screen that allows you to send personalized reminders, heartfelt messages, and cherished photos directly to your loved one, all through a mobile app. MemoryBoard was born from the personal experiences of a family who understands challenges firsthand. It's about reducing anxiety, enhancing daily life, and creating rare moments of joy for those who need it most. Welcome to Fading Memories, your source for all things dementia caregiving. I'm your host, Jen Fink, and I have had 3 generations of loved ones with dementia, and I'm here to share the knowledge I've gained with you. Welcome back, Fading Memories listeners. It's Jen Fink, your host and caregiver best friend. With me today is another caregiver turned creator, Tyler Zanini. He is the founder of MemoryBoard, and we're going to talk all about his journey with his grandmother and how his caregiving and his family's caregiving led them to creating this beneficial device. So thanks for joining me, Tyler.
Thank you so much, Jen. Appreciate you having me on.
You're welcome. So why don't we start with your background and how that led you to where we are today?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, MemoryBoard, it really was it came out of just a personal experience and my family's experience, trying to support and take care of my grandmother. She is a little bit of kind of context. I grew up all along the East Coast in New York and Florida. I went to school in DC. I've now been in the West Coast and in San Francisco for about a dozen years. And most of my family is still on the East Coast. My 2 grandmothers moved down to Florida to be closer to my parents, over the last couple of years. And, one of my 2 grandmothers about 5 years ago developed vascular dementia. And that was really difficult. I think as the years went by, it was just harder and harder to kind of keep in touch with her, or to communicate with her. And we were always very, very close. When we were 15, 20 minutes away driving just outside New York City, the first almost 10 years of my life. And I just have really fond memories of being at her house, having all the family together, the holidays. And it's just really hard as the years went by to kind of see that engagement become less and less. And MemoryBoard was a little bit of a way to kind of bridge that gap. So, it's really a communication tool where the kind of easiest way to think about it is we're kind of digitizing the sticky note or digitizing the whiteboard. So there's a device that sits in your loved one's home, in my grandmother's studio apartment in her memory care facility. And through an app, caregivers and family members can send reminders, messages, updates, photos as well. And you can tag the photo with like who's in the photo, where was it taken, maybe a fond memory from the photo, just to kind of provide a sense of connection and communication with my grandmother. And it's been a really amazing kind of tool for her and for our entire family to just kind of keep in touch and continue to communicate with her. We've been using it with her now for just 9 months at this point, and you can just really see her reaction to things, kind of noticing kind of people in the pictures, knowing when people are going to come by to see her. It's really been really, really impactful on her life.
So we have something in common. My maternal grandmother also had vascular dementia. So in addition to my mom with Alzheimer's, so it's definitely, she was the grandmother I was closest to as well. So I can
Yeah.
relate. So explain how MemoryBoard works. I gave a little bit in the intro, but certainly not enough.
Yeah, absolutely. So for us, when we were developing MemoryBoard, the goal was to build something that was super, super simple and super easy to use. And when we were talking to caregivers and families and assisted living and independent living groups, when we were just kind of saying, hey, is this something that could be helpful for people? The thing that we kind of kept hearing over and over again was this kind of term of like low burden, making it super low burden for the loved one. And that's really the goal of MemoryBoard. It's really intended to be today a one-way communication device where for somebody with memory loss, there's no managing the device. They don't need to charge it or plug it in. There's no apps they need to, switch around. There's no on button they need to control themselves. They really just need to have it in a place that's easily accessible, where they spend 80–90% of their time. And throughout the day, they'll hear a sound to indicate there's a new post, and they'll be able to kind of see what's on the memory board. And for the caregiver and for the family members, through an app, you can send messages, reminders, updates. You can schedule reminders as well. So we have a lot of people who maybe the night before, there's kind of 3 things going on the next day. They'll kind of load each one of those things up, and the messages will appear and disappear kind of before and just after the event takes place. And one of the nice things that we're seeing is there's really an unlimited number of people who can join what we're calling the care circle. So unlimited number of people from anywhere in the world can now be a part of the memory board, communicating with their loved one. And that's really helpful nowadays when people are living all over the country, all over the world. Multiple people are kind of supporting as kind of caregivers, and kind of thinking about how do they support their kind of older and aging adults. And so we've seen kind of a lot of kind of value there.
I would think that you'd be able to use this for an older relative that didn't necessarily have memory loss. Like my paternal grandmother lived to 103, and about until the last 9 months of her life, her mind was sharp as a tack. Now, the one challenge with her is she was mostly blind from glaucoma, so you might think about an audio readout if possible for version 2 or whatever version you're on. But it was like sometimes you'd be like, oh, I'm thinking about Nana, but I'm got a recording in a few minutes. I can't really jump on the phone, or for her, I couldn't also just like, I couldn't send text messages because she had one of those, I think it was one of those jitterbug phones, one of those really simple to use phones for the older people, because she couldn't see, so she needed it to be basic. But I would think you could use it for, like your grandmother that's, a few towns over, and, she pops into your head and you're like, oh, I'm going to send a message. Or can you send things like GIFs? So you can send photos. So can you, I was thinking something funny.
Yeah. You could definitely send something funny. And you're exactly right. We're definitely thinking about audio, at least the ability to play out the message, because it does make a sound when there is a new message, but the ability to read out a message, we're definitely thinking about that, just to think about low vision, kind of blindness, and those types of, and kind of for people, those individuals, we see a lot of value. So it's definitely something that we're thinking about. But you're exactly right. I mean, that's what we've seen quite a bit. In the case of my wife's grandmother, she's 90, she just turned 96 recently, and she's not diagnosed with dementia, but she's also 96, and I think she has some memory challenges, and she also misplaces her phone like a lot of people do, regardless of age. So can become very hard to reach. We have another kind of close family friends here in San Francisco, and similar situation. Her mom is in her late 90s at this point, at a assisted living center in San Francisco. Same thing. She's not kind of diagnosed with any sort of kind of memory condition, but it's a really helpful tool for her to say, hey, I'm going to be there in 10 minutes to come kind of pick you up. Hey, I haven't been able to reach you by phone. Can you kind of give me a call back? So even if people have a cell phone, I think there's a really good benefit to the memory board. It's been really helpful for people.
Well, on the flip side, you might be thinking about them like, oh gosh, I don't know why Nana popped into my head, but I wish I could give her a quick call, but 15 things to do in the next 20 minutes.
Yeah.
But they might not want to take a phone call right now. Just knowing that you're thinking about them, or hey, here's a funny, picture of my dog has a tendency to sleep on her back with her feet up in the air. She looks like roadkill. I don't know. My paternal grandmother would have like thrilled to those. She wasn't a real dog person, but hey, just you popped into my head, was thinking about you, just wanted to say hi.
Yeah.
That's the nice thing about text messages that older people don't always get. It's like you can, but still sometimes with text messages you get all involved in a conversation. You're like, no, I don't have time for this.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we heard that from some experts and dementia experts that we talked to, who said there is some if you have dementia, sometimes you're self-conscious about picking up a phone because you don't want to be asked a question that, maybe you don't know the answer to, or, ask something that, you think you should know the answer to, and then you're not able to. So there's actually kind of a benefit from that perspective where, hey, I'm thinking of you. I'm just kind of checking in, want to send you a message, but there's kind of no pressure around it. But to your point, I mean, and that's how I use MemoryBoard a lot with my grandmother, where I have a 2-year-old at home. So it's a lot of what's going on in her life and funny photos and how happy she is to be playing at the beach on the sand, and just kind of her smiling. It's a lot of that, just to know that, hey, we're thinking about you, and we're checking in.
You guys go to Ocean Beach?
We go to Ocean Beach a lot. We go to Cruise Field quite a bit. She calls it the playa. She loves the playa. So any chance to go to the playa, she
How
loves.
very metropolitan of her. I asked because I hung out at Ocean Beach a lot because I went to San Francisco State. So when you talk about the ocean, that just I had a absolute mental photo of what the Ocean Beach is like.
Yeah.
Oh, I haven't been there for a while. Uh, One question that came to mind is when my mom was in memory care, I think she could have benefited from this, not necessarily as like reminders per se, but the staff encouraged them not to just hang out in their rooms, kind of isolated. My mom always had a sidekick that kind of hung out with her, but for the most
Yeah.
part, they tried to encourage them to be out in the main areas and socialize. And my mom was pretty good about that. She preferred to sit around and shoot the breeze. I'm wondering if it would be
Mhm.
like they'd almost have to have the memory board like mounted out. Oh, they have the what do they call those little shadow boxes that have little trinkets about the person and their name in it,
Oh, yeah.
like
Yeah.
close to that so the staff could see it and be like, "Oh, hey, Diane, that was my mom's name." "Oh, Jennifer's coming, you have an appointment and she's going to be here in 10 minutes I could have sent it as I was leaving the house and I would have been there about 15, 20 minutes. So that would have worked.
Yeah.
But has any of that ever come up, like placement for optimal use? That sounds really technical.
No, no, no. So it definitely has. Like in the case of assisted living, how you described it is very much kind of how we've seen it be used, where it's also a really good tool for the care staff as like a prompting kind of mechanism, both for messages and photos, to your point, to say, oh, hey, like this person is coming by today. Now, can they kind of know, oh, maybe I should, make sure that, my loved one is ready on time, make sure that she's kind of ready to go. Or if there's a photo, and especially with the ability to like add a tag and some context to the photo, the care staff can actually say like, oh, this is your, great granddaughter, at her second birthday. And you have that kind of additional context for the care staff to work with. So we're definitely kind of seeing like how the care staff is using it. In the case of my grandmother, I'm hearing from the care staff all the time. They like it a lot. They want to kind of get it for other people in their lives. The other thing I've talked to assisted living about is this idea, a little bit kind of more to your point of just like having memory boards in the common areas. That's a little bit different. That'll be more of like for activities and events that are taking place, and providing reminders to the residents kind of what's going on. But that could be another area that we're potentially exploring.
I think those would have to be bigger.
Yeah, yeah, and yeah, we're looking at kind of different sizes, and so it kind of depends on location and space and all that.
That makes
Vision.
so the memory board as it is today is what, the size of an iPad?
There's two sizes. So there's like a 10-inch diagonal, which is about the size of an iPad. And then there's one that's a 15-inch diagonal, which is probably a little bit bigger than like a big laptop screen.
Trying to remember. I think mine trying to remember the size of my laptop. I haven't measured. Now I'm gonna have to measure it because I'm
Yeah.
curious.
It's like it would be a pretty big laptop. It's bigger than a laptop, I would say.
I used to do photographers. I'm used to like really big monitors, and
Yeah.
now being a little older, need bigger because I can't see.
Yeah.
So, how many like stories do you have that you could share with us about how people are using these? Because I like hearing all those kind of details.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So we've so to give kind of a little bit of kind of historical context, we 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 kicked off with initial pilot around January of this year. that past iteration of MemoryBoard, to getting it out there and seeing how people responded to it. And that was a mix of individual families from around the country, assisted living. So we had a handful of residents in a local assisted living facility here use it. Independent living. So the care coordinators at a couple independent living groups would take it out to their clients to test it out as well. So we had all these kind of different use cases. I think a couple things that we saw that were really, really interesting. One that came up like a number of times was this idea of using MemoryBoard as a kind of daily planner, or really as a replacement for your daily planner. So we heard, this kind of one family in particular, the wife is the primary caregiver, and she was telling us how they basically have kind of replaced their calendar and their daily planner with MemoryBoard, where they used to kind of write everything down into a daily planner, but that got misplaced. It was kind of hard to organize. There was kind of scribbles everywhere. And now it's kind of the MemoryBoard just in one place, where every day they'll load up, typically on one screen. Here's like the three things that are happening at 11 a.m., at 2 p.m., at 5 p.m. Here's kind of the main things that we're doing today. And that's kind of what the person kind of goes to kind of figure out what's going on. Another family we have down very close to where I am in San Francisco, down in the South Bay, they've actually kind of told us that, again, it's the case where the wife is the primary caregiver for her husband, who's diagnosed with Alzheimer's. And we've met with both of them a couple of times, and they both say that the husband's actually kind of become dependent on MemoryBoard, where he wakes up in the morning and he goes down to look at what's on the MemoryBoard. And then if nothing's there, if something hasn't been entered, he goes to his wife and says, what's happening? What's going on? Like, what's happening today? I don't know. So he's asking for the messages to kind of to appear on them and kind of what's going on. So we've seen a lot of things like that. There was another family in Florida that I was working with, who, though it's in this case it's an adult daughter taking care of supporting for the care of her mom. And she was telling us how her mom was attending more events because MemoryBoard was a way to remind her mom of the things that were going on. The mom is in assisted living or a senior living community, and so they have a lot of kind of events throughout the week. And she actually works for close by at another older adults community, but she doesn't have the ability to kind of get over there couple times a day and kind of update, a sticky note or update a whiteboard or just update her mom on what's going on. Now she can kind of do that through the MemoryBoard. And as a result, her mom was attending more events, which, I thought was pretty amazing.
Well, it's actually good for her mom's brain health as well to stay social and active. So that's a good story.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And then ultimately, like reducing, I think for us, it's like reducing anxiety, kind of providing peace of mind, kind of making people kind of feel connected. And we just continue to just hear great feedback from folks in terms of just how helpful it's been for their families.
That makes sense. And I know, like, in the memory care that my mom was in, they would go around. The community she was in was basically like a square O, and the courtyard was in the center. And so they would make the rounds around the memory care residents, and anybody that was like sitting around doing whatever, they'd be like, oh, we're going to do, arts and crafts or sing along or whatever the activity was. And then they'd also like knock on the doors and walk in. Oh, hey, Diane, we're going to be doing arts and crafts, which is something my mom should have loved. You want to join us, which I've learned over all the years that no is a pretty common response, even if no isn't really what they mean. Yeah. So I'm thinking having a MemoryBoard where they can, like my mom could see, arts and crafts is coming up, go to the dining room. And she might have just done that because, well, arts and crafts she likes, dining room something she's familiar with. So there's not really a no.
Yeah.
She could ignore it, which she might have done. But
yeah.
I think that kind of message that helps. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just, I just kind of agreeing with what you said. There's that kind of exact case is what we saw with one of the assisted living residents that we worked with, where the woman who is one of the kind of care coordinators at the assisted living told us that the resident used to call multiple times a day to kind of figure out what's going on, what's the agenda, what's kind of the schedule like, and really to kind of check in with the front desk. And the calls dropped like significantly because of MemoryBoard, because they were updating the memory boards of what was going on. And then they actually even noticed a change in the residents' behavior because, because of memory board in terms of like just and the comfort that she had kind of having a better kind of grasp on the daily schedule and the daily happenings.
It makes sense. And I know those phones get really busy because when I used to call, I'd have to call the main number to get forwarded to the memory care residents. And,
Yeah.
the director wasn't always sitting at her desk because there was always 500 fires to put
Yeah.
out. So,
Yeah.
I can see that being, especially as like the younger baby boomers, I'm an old Gen Xer, so it's like we're the first ones that bridge the non-technology and technology parts of life. And I can see people being more accepting
Hmm.
and just, I don't know, that just seems like it helps them stay a little bit more independent, even when independence is not something they're capable of managing anymore. Like, I don't know where your grandmother is in her disease progression, but by the time my mom was in memory care, she was definitely late stage Alzheimer's. And, you just had to you had to work with what she was giving you. You couldn't, it was hard to, you know how it is. It's hard to get them to do what you want. So there's,
Yeah. 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 I think my grandma's, yeah, kind of somewhat similar, similar spot. So, yeah, you kind of, you do your best.
that's all we can do. So what was how did this idea pop into your head, or do you remember?
Yeah, I mean, it was really, kind of like a trip that I had. One of the kind of last trips I had, just kind of going to see my grandmother and just kind of and just kind of going to her space and kind of seeing all kind of the sticky notes and the whiteboards that she kind of had everywhere, and then just this kind of nagging feeling over the years of just losing touch with her. I mean, I'll say, I mean, that's really what it was, where it was just like, and the person and she's just a very different person than when I was younger, right? It's just natural because of aging and then kind of the disease progression as well. So I was kind of like reflecting a little bit on how different things have kind of were and what we kind of had lost, I'll say, kind of over the years, just as she's gotten older, and tried to kind of think about like a little bit of a kind of way to bridge that gap a little bit, and just to kind of develop something that could help out and be a helpful tool, even if it has just a small impact on her.
Have you always had a tech background?
Uh, for the most part, always, I guess the years have gone by. So I've been in tech now for probably 10 to a dozen years at this point. So it's, most of my kind of post-college career has been in tech in some respects, in a lot of different kind of types of roles, primarily kind of healthcare focused, and different kind of healthcare initiatives. So I feel like I've just kind of been looking for companies that, ultimately are trying to do good and can help people and improve people's lives. And for me, always being able to and to build a company myself, that was always kind of really interesting, intriguing, and exciting for me. So this was kind of the opportunity to say, I think could be a really helpful tool for people. I think could really be a really good mission, and that we can have a positive impact on people's lives. And just and then just from there started talking to people, doing some discovery, reaching out, talking to experts. I'm not coming from the dementia space directly, so that's a lot of like learning and education and people. And the other thing I'm finding is it's just an amazing group of people who really care, like really want to help and provide information and provide content and support other people. And it's just a really amazing community to be a part of.
Well, welcome to the club.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I know. Yeah, you've been here for a while, so
Yeah, I have. And sometimes I feel like,
walking in your footsteps.
oh, thank you. Well, it'd be nice if we could prevent that. But until that happens,
Yeah,
I'm not going anywhere anytime soon. My goal is to live as long as my paternal grandmother with my mind intact. So, you know,
yeah,
something to work for every day. I was going to say,
yeah.
one of the things that I know, because I do community education for the Alzheimer's Association and have started doing that with AARP, because like I guess I don't like getting paid for anything. I like being a professional volunteer. Is
Yeah.
there's a lot of anxiety and agitation that comes with any form of, dementia. And I can see how Memory Board can kind of help calm that, just like I said, just with that, sending like, oh, thinking of you kind of thing. And because
Yeah.
they start to lose their grasp on time. I mean, I don't know. I swear, I think, it's like this year's gone so fast. I'm thinking I'm losing my grasp on time.
Yeah. Fair. Yeah. Same. Same.
I don't know what it is with 2025, but holy crap, it's like, could we please slow it down? I like this time of year.
Halfway over.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for real. Um, but they start losing that, and it's if you see them every day after work for half hour, 45 minutes, they may not realize that you were there, and just having a
Yeah.
little message that says, "Oh, hey, mom," or "Hey, grandma," or whatever, thinking about you. Or here's a picture of a pretty flower I took at my lunch break or something. It doesn't have to be a big deal.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to be, oh, hey, we got a
Yeah.
doctor's appointment. Might
Yeah.
not want to
No, no.
remind him of that one. But I can see that
Yeah.
reducing anxiety, which is definitely beneficial for everybody. Um,
Yeah.
Kind of keeping them connected to our world, because they definitely, I'm sure you've
Yeah.
experienced grandmother end up in their own world, which isn't necessarily bad, but
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
what I was going to ask a question.
Yeah. I think no, I think any little bit helps is kind of what I've seen. And with memory board, that's the ultimate goal for me is I think the ultimate goal is helping people live more independently and age in place. And we're still very early. We're still kind of figuring out if that's kind of truly what it can do. But beyond that, to your point, it's reducing anxiety, providing peace of mind, keeping people connected. And I think just with the early families we were working with, it seems like, it's been helpful for those things. And we're just going to keep adding and improving it to kind of make it even better for folks.
So is this so they buy the memory board and then they download the app?
Correct. Yeah, exactly right. So you buy the device and it's always plugged in. It's always connected to Wi-Fi. And now the device also will update. So when there's new versions available, people who have already bought the memory board will get the benefit of those new versions without having to kind of pay for it. You'll need to update your device, but then you'll have kind of the newest version of memory board. So you will kind of get the benefit when there's a new version after you've made the purchase. And then the app itself is on iPhone and Android devices. So it's generally kind of available for anybody.
Which I understand is the trickiest part of programming or coding.
There's a lot of tricky things as I learned as I kind of went to there's just everything's tricky at the end, everything's hard. But some things are more difficult than others. The apps weren't too bad. I think the hardware itself was a lot of learning, let's say, to kind of figure it out.
Well, lifelong learning is beneficial to your brain, your cognitive health. So you're doing yourself a favor with this challenge.
Yeah, if anything, I've learned a ton with this endeavor. So the learnings will stick with me. So
That's
that's
awesome.
honestly one of the most fun parts is all the learnings.
Well, that's good. I'm glad that's not the frustrating part.
Yeah, yeah. That's the glass half full part is the frustration comes with learning. So keep it in perspective.
Awesome. Well, is there any updates that might be coming soon that you want to tease the audience with?
Yeah, absolutely. So we did, we kind of launched, as I alluded to, we did the pilot earlier this year. We did an official launch a couple of weeks ago. And now we're kind of, we're out there. Families are kind of finding us. We hear from more families every single day about how Memory Board has been a helpful tool and really valuable tool. And I would say we're just getting started. So there's a lot of exciting kind of new features and functionality and things that we're planning to add. You alluded to one of them, the kind of voice capabilities and kind of reading out a message is something we're spending a lot of time on as well. Making a little bit of figuring out how to think. Right now it's one-way communication, right? Sending a message to your loved one, but thinking about like kind of a two-way communication type of mechanism. And to give people the option, I think a lot of people will keep it as a one-way tool and kind of it's how it was originally intended, but we've gotten a lot of feedback from people asking for it could be as simple as like a confirmation button, right? Like, okay, I saw your message, right? So we're thinking about that as well a lot. So yeah, there's just a lot of kind of features and functionality we're kind of thinking about, which will come with future versions.
Awesome. Well, I'm encouraging everybody to check this out because, as we've discussed, it could help with communication, anxiety, all the good stuff, and do it in a simple, easy way because Lord knows none of us need more things to do.
Yeah, simple is key. My father-in-law, who's I'm working on this with, he loves to say simple is stupid. Keep it simple, stupid, which he's told me enough. I get it. He's conveyed the message, but there's an ounce of truth in it where just keep things simple, keep it low burden, don't overwhelm. Our goal with Memory Board is just to do one thing well, and that's have a really easy way to communicate through messages and through photos, and just kind of continue to build on that philosophy.
Well, that's awesome. I want to thank you for sharing this information with my listeners. Again, I hope you guys all check it out because this sounds amazing and we need to support caregiver turn creators like Tyler and help him build this business because, definitely sounds like something we need. So I appreciate you coming on today.
Well, thank you again, Jen. I really do appreciate the time and the opportunity.